You know that feeling, right? There's this big, kind of daunting task sitting there.
Hmm.
Maybe it's learning something totally new for work or, I don't know, finally committing to that exercise plan you keep putting off.
Yeah, and the payoff feels so far away.
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
hard. It feels, well, cold, metaphorically speaking. And the easy path, the comfy sofa path, is just right there.
That friction just getting started, it's where everything stalls.
It really is. It's this constant battle, isn't it? Immediate comfort versus that distant reward.
Absolutely. And, humans have been wrestling with this exact thing for, well, basically forever, as long as we've had goals, really.
So today, we're going to skip the usual rah-rah motivation stuff.
Good.
And instead, we're going deep. We're going to dig into one single, incredibly sharp, maybe even a bit brutal piece of ancient wisdom about this very struggle.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What have we got?
It's a Hebrew proverb, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 4. Short, but packs a punch.
Ah, okay. And the literal translation is, well, it doesn't pull any punches, does it?
Not at all. It goes, the lazy person does not plow in the cold season. Therefore, he begs during the harvest and has nothing.
Oof is right. Stark.
So our mission here, for you listening, maybe you're learning something new, starting a business, tackling any big goal, is to take this 3,000-year-old advice
Yeah.
and looked at it through the lens of, well, modern brain science, neuroscience.
And figure out why. Why do we put off the necessary stuff?
Exactly. And more importantly, how do we build some kind of mechanism, some system to actually overcome our own biology?
How do we pick up that metaphorical plow even when it's freezing out?
Let's figure it out. Okay, so let's unpack the main image here. Clearly, we're not talking about actual farming equipment from the Bronze Age.
Right, not literally.
So for us today, trying to achieve goals, learn complex things, what do these pieces, the plowing, the cold, the harvest, what do they actually represent?
Well, it's actually a remarkably elegant way to frame modern challenges. We can break it down pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, first up, plowing in the cold season. This is, it's that hard, uncomfortable, upfront effort.
The grunt work.
Precisely. For someone learning, it's drilling the basic grammar when it's tedious. Or, say, saving that first chunk of money for a down payment when it feels impossible.
Or those first few weeks at the gym when everything just aches.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
It's the high-friction work you have to do when the reward, emotional or tangible, feels really distant.
So the cold season isn't literal winter. It's just whenever the necessary work feels unpleasant or demands a lot of energy up front before you see results.
You got it. And the flip side is the harvest.
Uh,
That represents the point of evaluation and reward.
Yeah.
Passing the big exam, getting the promotion, seeing your business turn a profit, actually getting the return on that investment you made.
And the proverb draws a really tight line between the two. Cause and effect. Avoid the cold.
And you get nothing at the harvest. The link is direct, almost deterministic.
Which really hammers home the point, doesn't it? Effort has to go in when it's needed.
Yes, often when it's uncomfortable. Not just when you're suddenly feeling inspired or when the task magically becomes easy.
It's about that early investment. The stuff you do way before anyone notices. Maybe even before you see the point yourself sometimes.
That's the core wisdom here. Recognizing the critical value of that antecedent investment.
Okay, but here's the big question then. If the payoff, the harvest, is so obviously good, why is starting that cold season work just universally difficult?
Right. Why do we choose the immediate comfort, even though we kind of know the long-term cost?
Yeah, this is where the biology comes in, right?
Absolutely. We need to understand the evolutionary roots of this. Psychologists often call it present bias.
Present bias. Okay, walk us through that evolutionary mismatch you mentioned earlier.
Well, think about it. For almost all of human history, our ancestor survival depended on immediate safety and saving energy.
Makes sense. Finding food, avoiding predators, not freezing.
Exactly. Avoiding cold, resting when possible, conserving calories, these things were critical right now. Thinking about 6 months ahead wasn't always the top priority or even possible.
But our world is different now. That old programming doesn't quite fit. Saving energy now, like scrolling TikTok instead of studying for that certification.
Actively prevents a potentially huge future gain. That old, very useful adaptation can actually hijack our modern goals.
Hijack, I like that. It makes us choose the easy thing, the immediate comfort over the big, complex future benefit.
Precisely. And neuroscientists can point to a specific brain region heavily involved in this, the nucleus accumbens. It's a key part of what's called the ventral striatum, the brain's reward circuit.
The reward circuit. Okay, so what's happening in the nucleus accumbens when we're tempted by, say, hitting snooze?
Huh, yes. Well, that area gets strongly activated just by the anticipation of an immediate reward.
Just thinking about it.
Just thinking about it. Checking your phone, sleeping in longer, eating something sugary, boom, the nucleus accumbens lights up, dopamine flows. Feels good now.
Ah,
And the long-term stuff, the plowing.
the plowing offers a delayed reward. So to the nucleus accumbens, it feels, well, low priority. Almost repellent, actually. The activation cost feels huge.
So we're literally fighting millions of years of brain development that's just trying to keep us comfy in the present moment.
That's a great way to put it. You're fighting biology designed for a different world.
Okay, so our nucleus accumbens is basically cheering for Netflix over spreadsheets.
Yeah.
How does this discounting thing work? You mentioned present biases, but is it like the value of the future reward just fades away steadily? Or is it more dramatic?
It's actually far more dramatic, and that's the crux of the problem for procrastination. We're talking about something called hyperbolic discounting. George Ainsley and others really explored this.
Hyperbolic. Okay, sounds fancy. What does it mean in practice?
It means we discount future rewards too steeply. It's not a smooth, gradual decline in value like you might expect. That would be exponential discounting. It's, well, hyperbolic. The value drops off incredibly fast at first, then levels out too steeply. So we irrationally undervalue the future.
Massively, especially when it's far away. And this steep, irrational curve causes our preferences to actually flip.
Flip. How so?
When the harvest, let's say the exam deadline, is months away, the immediate discomfort of studying the plowing feels huge compared to that distant reward. So you think, ugh, we'll do it later.
Yeah, classic procrastination move.
But then, as the deadline gets really close, suddenly the value of passing skyrockets in your mind. The immediate discomfort seems less important than the impending doom or reward.
And that's when the panic sets in, the all-nighters, the cramming.
Exactly. The preference flips. The task you avoided for months because it felt too costly suddenly seems doable, but now you're out of time for proper preparation. Regret ensues.
The cost of starting only vanishes when the fear takes over. Okay, let's make this concrete. You mentioned a story about a student that feels very relatable.
Yes, consider student A. Let's say he needed to master some foundational English grammar, classic cold season plowing back in the spring. But, he felt tired, social media was calling, he decided he'd get serious about it later.
Avoided the daily grind. So what happened when crunch time arrived?
Well, the midterm exam, the harvest rolls around in July, and suddenly he realizes he doesn't have that fundamental understanding.
Panic station.
Totally. He rushes out, buys all the grammar guides, tries to cram 3 months of foundational work into 3 days.
Been there. Doesn't usually work.
Right. The tools were there, the books, but the window for actually building the foundation, for doing the plowing when it mattered, had closed. The opportunity was missed. The outcome was pretty much baked in at that point.
A painful but very clear example of hyperbolic discounting in action. So if our brains are basically programmed to choose the couch and avoid the cold, how do we fight back? How do we actually train ourselves to do the plowing consistently? What kind of self-discipline actually works against this powerful discounting thing?
It's less about raw willpower, which is exhaustible, and more about systematic self-training. We need systems that automate the start of the work.
Automate the start.
Okay. Yeah, this usually means doing the basics consistently, like daily, same time, same simple procedure, regardless of whether you feel like it or not. You take motivation out of the equation as much as possible.
Because the biggest hurdle isn't usually the task itself, it's just starting the damn thing.
Exactly, the activation energy. So what's the tool? What's the simplest, most effective way to kind of trick our brain into just getting over that initial hump?
Okay, give us the trick.
Well, a really powerful combination is using implementation intentions along with a minimal action. You might know the minimal action part as the 2-minute rule.
Implementation intentions. That's the if-then planning, right?
Precisely. You pre-decide what you'll do when faced with a specific cue or obstacle.
So what's the if-then example that the source material suggested for, say, a student struggling to start studying?
The specific formula was if.
Yeah.
If you feel that cold, sluggish resistance, you want to quit before you even start. Then you just open the textbook and solve only the very first easiest problem, or maybe just read 1 page for just 2 minutes.
2 minutes. That sounds almost pointless.
It sounds tiny, but that's the magic. What's the science behind making the first step ridiculously small?
Okay, yeah, explain that.
by pairing the if-then plan with that minimal viable action. The 2 minutes you drastically lower the perceived activation cost. That initial tiny success, just opening the book or doing one small thing, it actually gives a little positive signal back to the nucleus accumbens.
Yeah.
A tiny immediate reward. It helps bridge that motivational gap. But even more importantly, it creates behavioral inertia.
Behavioral inertia, like an object in motion stays in motion.
Exactly that. You've overcome the static friction, the hardest part, getting started. Once you're moving, even just a little bit, the friction to keep going is way lower.
And what does that feel like when you're actually doing it?
It feels like, okay, well, I'm already here, the book's open, I did that first easy bit, might as well do the next one. Or I got my running shoes on, I'm out the door, might as well do the full loop.
So you shift from fighting the resistance to just carrying on, maybe even getting into it?
Yes. You can actually get a bit of work excitation. You transition from dreading the start to being engaged in the process.
Yeah.
The 2-minute rule is just a lever to get the boulder rolling.
That mental shift from battling resistance to building momentum feels really key for managing ourselves. But if we understand this internal struggle, this fight against discomfort so well in ourselves, where do we tend to misstep when we look at other people who seem to be, well, not succeeding?
That's a really important pivot and a crucial nuance here. This wisdom about preparation, about plowing in the cold. It's incredibly powerful for self-management.
Right.
But we have to be really, really careful when we start applying it to judge why others might lack a harvest.
What's the danger there?
The source material warns against jumping to conclusions, specifically against labeling people who aren't achieving obvious success as uniformly lazy.
Okay.
We need to consider other factors, systemic issues, situational constraints. Success isn't just a simple equation of effort equals outcome.
So someone might not be harvesting because of things totally outside their control.
Absolutely. Think about chronic illness, or maybe overwhelming caregiving duties, or deep poverty that forces someone to work multiple survival jobs, leaving no time or energy for plowing on other goals. Or maybe they simply lack the information or resources, they don't even know where the field is, let alone have a plow.
So we see the lack of result and we tend to blame the person's character, their effort.
Instead of considering the difficulty of their situation. And this tendency has a name in psychology. It's a cognitive bias called the fundamental attribution error, or FAE.
Fundamental attribution error. Okay, break that down.
Basically, when we analyze why other people act or fail, we instinctively tend to overestimate the role of internal factors, their personality, their choices, their laziness. And at the same time, we underestimate the power of external factors, the situation, the context, the environmental pressures they're under.
So with FAE, we're quick to slap that lazy label from the proverb onto someone else.
When the reality of their struggle might be far more complex than a simple choice they made one morning about whether or not to face the cold.
That's a critical distinction. The proverb is primarily a mirror for looking at ourselves, not necessarily a window for judging others.
Exactly. Use it for self-correction and building personal discipline, but apply it with extreme caution, if at all, when assessing others.
This has been really illuminating. We've gone from an ancient farming metaphor to brain chemistry and cognitive biases. Let's try and crystallize the main takeaways from this deep dive. What are the key things you, listening, should remember?
Okay, 3 main things stand out for me. First, really internalize that core link. Your preparatory effort, especially during that tough, uncomfortable, cold season.
The plowing.
That's what fundamentally shapes your harvest results. Effort has to happen when it's required, not just when it feels good or convenient.
Got it. Point 1. Preparation dictates results. What's number 2?
Second, acknowledge your own biology.
Yeah.
Your brain is wired for instant comfort. Thanks to things like the nucleus accumbens and hyperbolic discounting, it will naturally resist the cold.
So you can't just rely on willpower.
Right. You need to consciously engineer structure and mechanisms to bypass that resistance. Things like the if-then planning and that tiny, almost trivial 2-minute rule. You have to trick your primal brain into getting started.
Okay, so point 2. Build system to beat your biology. And the final takeaway.
And third, echoing what we just discussed, focus primarily on plowing your own field. Meaning, use this wisdom for your own self-improvement. Work systematically on overcoming your own resistance. Be very cautious about using it to diagnose or label others as lazy. The proverb is fundamentally a tool for self-discipline.
A mirror, not a judgment window. Love that. Okay, so prep matters most. Build systems to start. Focus on your own work.
That summed it up nicely.
Excellent. So that leaves us with the final thought, a question for you to maybe ponder as you go about your day. If success really does hinge on that consistent small effort during the preparation phase, what's one small, maybe slightly uncomfortable plow action, just one, that you could commit to doing daily for just 2 minutes, starting, well, right now?
Find that one small thing.
Go find your field.